You're making one right decision today. You're listening to Handcuffs and Sage.
Three badass moms bringing you all the true crime and paranormal your heart desires.
I'm Red.
I'm Timo.
I'm Dre. And don't let your kids listen. Seriously, just don't.
Hey, it's Handcuffs and Sage. Oh my goodness.
Whoa,
Woo,
whoa,
woo, woo.
whoa.
Happy
Where
New
you been, girl?
Year.
This is so weird that we're recording. It feels like it's been years. It's so good to see y'all.
Who are we? Who
This
are
is, oh, I don't know, honey. I'm still on a journey to find out.
I hear you, sister.
This is Red.
And this is Timo.
And this is Dre.
And we are back and we are ready for 2021. Oh my goodness. I have been feeling this flow of good energy.
Okay.
Like crazy. It might be all the positivity that I'm drinking. But I just had, a moment. I was driving in the car and I just felt such happiness. And I think that when we have those moments, we kind of have to hold on to them and just appreciate, kids are happy and healthy and I have a roof over my head. And that doesn't mean my life is perfect, right? I have a lot of stuff going on, but I just feel so blessed and I'm ready to have a great year. Are you guys ready to have a great year?
I'm so ready. Just hearing you talk about how ready you are, it makes me happy,
Yeah.
It's good. It's
Me
so
too.
good to be in this moment, to feel good. It's okay to feel good.
It's okay to feel good. I had so many years where I did not feel good. I'm going to keep it real. I had so many hard years where I was like just depressed and sad. And I felt like life was never going to get better. And I feel like there's a shift that's happened. I feel like it happened maybe in like the last year and a half, right? This last year and a half, there's been a real shift. And I've been taking the time, I think, to really self-care, focus on good moments. I'm not perfect. I have breakdowns and I lose my shit all the time. But I think I'm taking more time to focus on the good. You know what I mean? And when you do that, I think it changes the way you see the world. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Anyway, I'm just sharing my happiness. I need to share it a little bit. And I hope everyone else has got those moments too. That's all I want.
I've set a bunch of goals for myself for this year.
Yes.
We'll see how they go. I decided not to do resolutions. I'm doing goals because I never really, and of course, one of those goals is to stay on keto and lose the weight. That's like my every year resolution. But for right now, Timo had hand surgery, y'all. I had carpal tunnel, and I'm all wrapped up. And everyone has been by my side to eat whatever I want at this point so that I can heal and feel better. And so that's what's happening right now. I'm not doing my keto for the next week or so. And then once my hands start getting better, then I'm going to jump back in and get it going.
I kind of love resolutions. We talked a bit about this, like resolutions and goals. I'm a big believer in goals, but resolutions to me, I have like a resounding thing with them because I usually have one that I really stick to. And my last year's resolution was to lose 50 pounds. And because I had made that resolution, even though, I got into January and February, I continued on, right?
Right.
And, there's been a lot of ups and downs with this year, the same as everybody. But I feel like it's so good to write out what do you want in your life and how are you going to get there and work on that daily. I think a lot of people have these dreams. I'd like to do this. I'd like to do this, but there's no plan, right? And I think that's what you're doing with your goals. And I think that's what I'm doing with my goals and resolutions. And Dre's lost a bunch of weight this year. And, we've all made these changes. I'm super proud of us. It's been such a hard year for so many reasons, and we still overcame and did a lot of really good things. So I'm proud of us. I like us a lot.
but we have a great group of gals that are all like, you know, our little bombshell group. And let me tell you, we're all just like friggin' like awesome. Let me just tell you why I think we're so awesome. Because we can tell each other like the most intimate, grossest things on our little chat. But it's like, but
what are you talking about? We would never.
It's like being human, you know, it's like being human, and it's normal shit that happens. And it's like, we're able to talk with each other about stuff like that. So it doesn't seem like weird or like taboo or whatever. And I think that's one of the things that makes our group so awesome. And, you know, if we fuck up and we cheat for a day or we do whatever, you know, we're not like, well, you know, great, you know, whatever. We'll just like get back on the train, girl. Do your shit.
I think that's what makes the difference. You know, get back up. Everyone has those days. I've had a million of those days. Just get back up, right? And don't beat yourself up about it. I think that's what people do. They beat themselves up and then they quit and then they're mad at themselves, right?
Right.
This vicious, terrible cycle. Yeah. And I did that for 18 years. Don't do it. Don't waste your life. Oh my gosh.
I also wanted to give a big shout out to one of our listeners. We love her to death, Naomi. She came in and saved me, y'all. I had a ride to surgery. You know, you can't drive yourself there and they won't let you take an Uber. So Miss Amy, we had planned for Miss Amy to take me and pick me up. But plans changed. She couldn't do it. So I was like kind of trying to find a ride at the last minute. People were working or out of town because it was, right before the holiday. So a neighbor was able to take me. I didn't have a ride home. And Naomi just stepped in and she picked up my prescription for me. And she
my gosh.
And it was so great. And she loves us. She's an avid listener. So hi, Naomi. Thank you, girl.
Hi, Naomi. And she got a handcuffs and sage ornament because she listens. Aww, that's nice. That's nice, Naomi. Dre, what are your, do you do resolutions? Do you just have goals for the year? What do you do?
I usually don't even touch them. I don't think about resolutions. And I think it's because like for so many years, I've made resolutions only to break them right away, right? Like, I'm going to start going to the gym. And I was that person. We as teenagers were like assholes and selfish and all that. So the older I got, the more I realized
an asshole or selfish right now, like at all, ever.
No, exactly.
No,
exactly. So I think that I try to just be a better person every year without really making resolutions. So maybe that's just my goal, you know, like my goal to be a better person, to be the badass every day.
And you're a badass all the time.
We're trying.
I see you, girl. I know the good that you do all the time. I see.
Yes, thank you.
So I have some confidential information for you guys.
Ooh,
are you ready? Are you ready for this?
Confidential that you're sharing on the podcast?
That's right, girl. Are you ready for
this? Oh, just for our listeners. You're in a special group, guys.
You guys are very special to hear this confidential information. You're hearing it here first, and you're welcome.
All right.
So I've decided to be a mid-minimalist. Not a full minimalist, because that's insanity. I'm doing mid-minimalism. So I'm going through everything in the house, and I'm basically like, just everything's going, right? Except for my Pioneer Woman collection. Okay. Everything else is going, but Pioneer Woman stuff. Great. I find stuff I haven't seen in years and years. You know, I'm blown away. Old pictures, things like that. And I found my secret diary from when I was 10 years old.
What?
I dig
Let me tell you, there's a lot of
still have that
secretive secrets in this. And I was the dumbest 10-year-old of all time. Reading this, it was hard. It made me dislike myself just a little bit. Okay.
I did find something like that. I found like like a 15-year-old self that wrote stuff down, and I was like, you do not love him, bitch.
Bitch, you so dumb, girl.
Oh
You're
my
so
God.
stupid.
That's
Run.
hilarious.
Rip, and in the fire. Get rid of it.
First of all, it's very clear and it's quite concerning how boy crazy I was at 10 years old.
Oh.
One of the things I put in here is things I want for the next year to win over more boys' hearts. What in the actual fuck?
You go, Red. You go.
Oh my gosh.
I am so kidding. My daughter's 8. Holy shit. Stop it right now.
Right? That's not that far away. Obviously, my favorite color was hot pink. Duh.
Mm-hmm.
Favorite band? New Kids on the Block.
Duh.
Yeah. And I was clearly obsessed with some boy named Ian Todd because he is mentioned over and over and over again.
Do you even remember this kid?
Yes, he was dreamy. Ian Todd.
Do you look him up on Facebook?
Let me look him up real quick.
Yeah, let's look him up on Facebook.
Oh my goodness. Okay, we will. Okay, good idea. Good thinking. Favorite food, broccoli, cheese. I'm still a big fan. I still just love broccoli and cheese, you guys. Same girl.
Wow. Okay.
I put in here, what am I going to be when I grow up? A famous actress for sure.
Excellent.
And if they need me, I will help draw sets. Oh, I'm a helper and a giver. Not only will I act famously, but I will draw the sets for them too. So that was nice of me to add that. I talk about hating babysitting my younger siblings constantly in this thing. Why I was babysitting so much when I was obviously a hoodlum is beyond me. But all I talk about is gotta watch my sisters again. Gotta watch my sisters again. I was pretty pissed about it. But I really enjoyed seeing 10-year-old Red in this. I feel bad I let her down. I am not a famous actress, Little Red. Sorry.
You still
There's
got
still
time,
time.
girl. You still got time,
There's still
girl.
time. All right, Little Red, I'll work on it. Anyway, so my secret diary, you heard it here first. And we will look at Ian Todd, obviously my soulmate, later on.
Oh my God.
Okay,
This is so awesome. I don't know how you still have that, but that's like the golden find right there.
I thought y'all would get a kick out of that.
Yeah, that is so awesome. Right. So before Red starts telling her story, on top of hand surgery, Timo also has her winter cold. And it's like
are you talking about yourself in the third person?
Always. Timo has this really juicy cough, and I've been pressing mute every time I have to cough, and it's getting to be annoying. So you might hear me a little bit in the background. Sorry, y'all, but that's what I gotta do.
So my baby girl, my firstborn, she's turning 19 on Friday.
What?
So
she just turned 18. What happened?
I know. I'm not quite sure. So we're here. She's going to be 19, my baby. And I asked her, what would you like me to talk about on the podcast? I will do a story for you. What are you interested in? And because she is my angry little princess through and through, she made a request, and I'm going to do it for you.
Excellent.
So I hope everyone enjoys, because I think a lot of people are going to dig it. I think it's going to take us all back in time. And I know you're going to feel what I feel as we talk about it. Okay, cool. Here we go. Okay. Buckle up. April 5th, 1994, lead singer of Nirvana, Kurt Cobain, dies. Here we go. We're going back in time. This is our moment. I was deeply affected by this. Do you guys remember where you were when you heard that Kurt Cobain died? You know how like people older generations know where they were when JFK died. They can tell you.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's what Kurt Cobain is for me.
right. I'm a lot older than you, Red, and I'm like 7 years older than you, Dre. Like 6 years, whatever.
Something.
I was like a woman, like a grown up when he died. You guys were probably like in diapers still.
No, we were kids.
No,
I was in high school.
I was an angry, bitter teenager when he died. Okay. And he was my God, honey.
Yeah.
He
I was driving and I had to pull over and cry. I was like, no, this is not happening. No. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I was in junior high. I walked up to one of my guy friends and he turned to me crying. And I was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And he said, Kurt Cobain died. And we just stood there and cried together. I couldn't even function.
Yep.
I loved him. So with the Kurt Cobain death, a lot of people say, was it suicide? Right? And that's what we're going to talk about. The conspiracy behind Kurt Cobain's death. My Lord and Savior. Okay. So Kurt Cobain, he was found with a fatal gunshot wound to his head in Seattle, Washington. Awful. Just awful. So Kurt was born February 20th, 1967. And he grew up in Aberdeen, Washington. And I just love saying Aberdeen. And he would say later about Aberdeen that it was a redneck hell. So he wasn't a fan of Aberdeen. Kurt was a really, really creative, sensitive boy. Okay. He had all the feelings. Very creative. There's a lot of writings and things that you hear about and see in a lot of documentaries that are out. Incredibly artistic. Right? So even at a very young age, this is the way he was. He was bullied a lot in school. And obviously that probably contributed to, things that he dealt with later on in life. So he was really bullied. He was in this place in Washington and Aberdeen that he felt like he didn't fit in. And then his parents got divorced in 1976, and he was only 9 years old. And this was about a week after his birthday that this happened. Okay. So March 1st, 1976, his father, Don, moves out of the home. They're getting a divorce. And his mom, Wendy, gets full custody of Kurt and his little sister, Kimberly. And I thought that was so cute. Kurt and Kimberly. Oh. So Wendy has full custody of the kids. But Wendy says, later on, she's talking to like Rolling Stone, stuff like that in interviews. She said that Kurt completely changed after the divorce. He was really affected. I'm a child of divorce. It is not easy to go through, and it was definitely not easy for him to go through. She said that he changed and he acted ashamed with himself, that he really went inward. He would hold everything inside, and that this divorce kind of destroyed him. Just thinking about a 9-year-old kid, that just breaks my heart. So he had a lot of stuff going on. Wendy immediately got a boyfriend, and this boyfriend moved into the home, and he was very abusive to Wendy. Okay. He beat her senseless. There was one time that she was sent to the hospital because he beat her so bad. So this was in the home now that Kurt and Kimberly are in. So not a good situation. And Kurt starts getting in trouble in school, right? This is what kids do. This is their scream for help. So he's getting in trouble at school. He's got this mom's boyfriend at home. His dad has moved out. There's a lot of stuff. So Wendy says, instead of, the boyfriend has to go, Kurt has to go.
What?
Yeah. So Kurt goes to live with his father, Don. And this is just about 3 months after Don initially had moved out. So he goes and he moves in with his dad, Don. Okay. And at first, this is great. It really is good for Kurt, because They're going camping all the time. They're doing father-son bonding things that I think Kurt really needed. And so this was actually a really good period for Kurt. But then, you know, a little before his 11th birthday, his father, Don, tells him he's getting remarried to a woman named Jenny, and she had daughters. And this was really hard for Kurt because I think he really needed his dad's like undivided attention. And all of a sudden it was divided with Jenny and then these daughters, and then they had a baby together and it was a boy. And then Kurt felt just basically replaced, and he didn't feel like he had his own family unit. Okay. And I understand that too. So he really started acting out. There's one story where I guess Dawn, Jenny, and the girls went out to maybe run some errands. Kurt had stayed home. And when they came back, they saw that he had ripped all of the stepsisters' dolls' heads off. And they just thought, holy shit, right? This freaking kid. He's obviously screaming for attention. He wants attention. Not a bad kid. Yeah. Yeah. We should all talk to your brothers right now. Get them on the line.
Yeah. Why did you rip the dolls off my baby's heads?
Tell us right now. So on June 14th, 1979, Kurt's 12 years old, and his dad, Don, actually petitions to get full custody of him, which I think Don felt like that was the right thing to do. He had been living there for a while, and now it was time to have full custody of him. But Kurt actually wasn't happy about this because it didn't feel like his family, right? He felt like he was living in the home with a family in it, but it wasn't his family. And he started, I put smoking the reefer. I'm such a dork. So he started smoking pot, getting in trouble. He's, 12 and he doesn't know what to do with himself. Okay. So a little later on in school, Dawn says, I think you should go back and live with your mom, Wendy. And Wendy, his mom, says, no, he cannot come back and live with me, which is, I can't even. What, Wendy? Okay. So she says no to little Kurt. And so he actually kind of just gets shuttled around between relatives and the family. And that's how he spent like most of his years, just kind of couch surfing, going house to house, and really sad, right? Not a good situation for a kid. So one of the relatives that he stays with is his Uncle Chuck. And Uncle Chuck is a musician. And for his 14th birthday, Uncle Chuck says to Kurt, okay, you can choose between a bike or a guitar. And I think we all know what Kurt chose, okay? He chooses a guitar and he is born. So he's all about his music. He plays the guitar all the time. He plays, a lot of Queen and Cars and Ramones, right? Led Zeppelin, that's his thing. So he does a lot of cover music. So he's into it. And then he decides he wants to make his own music. He's very creative. He starts writing his own songs. He's very deep. And his Uncle Chuck is so impressed with him and the time he puts into his music that he asked a friend to give him lessons. So they really honed in on this might be his gift. And I think that's great that somebody did that for him, right? You're a badass, Uncle Chuck. Good job. So Kurt at the time was hanging out with members of the Melvins. Have you guys heard of the Melvins, the group the Melvins? So he was hanging out in the punk scene, right? We all know what the punk scene is. It's anger. Nobody understands us. And this really feeds Kurt. I understand this. My wet dream is living in Seattle in the 90s. Are you fucking kidding me? Mind blown. And he's there. He's hanging out with the Melvins. This music is really getting to him and he is expressing it in his own music now. So all of these things are coming together. So Kurt starts this band, and guess what this band's name is? It's so gross. Do y'all know? All right. I'll tell you.
I
No
don't know it.
guesses. So Kurt's first band's name is Fecal Matter.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Right.
nice.
Yeah,
nice name. It's the shit, man. Fecal Matter. So
I
Fecal
think
Matter.
one of Aurora's shows, like the brother has a band called Loaded Diaper. And that's all I could think of when you asked that question, and I knew it wasn't Loaded Diaper, but
So
yeah.
gross, man.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fecal Matter puts a demo tape together, and they're handing out this demo tape to all the fans, the Melvin shows, right? That's where they are, same type of music, handing it out. And one of the fans there, his name is Chris Novoselic. I knew I wasn't going to be able to say it right. Chris Novoselic. Okay. You know who I mean, Chris. Okay. So he's really impressed with Kurt, and they start making music together. And dare I say, beautiful music together. And so in 1987, Kurt is 20 years old, and the band Nirvana begins. Oh, shit.
Yes.
Was there a shooting star that night? I believe there was. So Nirvana means freedom from pain. And Kurt actually was deep. He really liked to do deep dives in lots of different religions. He found that really interesting. And this obviously comes from the Buddhist religion or the Buddhist practice. So that's where Nirvana came from, freedom from pain. And I love that. Fall 1991, their second album came out, Nevermind. So their first album was Bleach. Okay. And Bleach did well, but Nevermind, get out of here. Right? I remember Nevermind, and then their single on it was Smells Like Teen Spirit. Okay. Changed Little Red's life. Okay. I was blossoming into my white hot rage years, and I felt like he was speaking my language, right? And I think a lot of kids at the time felt that way. He gets me. He's angry. He's sick of it. I'm angry. I'm sick of it, right? So I love Nirvana. I fucking loved it. So during the Bleach album times, he had his first girlfriend, Tracy, and that was like his first love. And then after Tracy, he was with another musician, and her name is Toby Gale. And he said later on that she was his counterpart, and they had like a really beautiful relationship. He wrote a lot of music when he was with Toby. One of his songs, Aneurysm. I don't know if you guys know that song. There's this story about how like when he first met Toby, he was like so taken with her. He actually like threw up. And he threw up. He was just, when I meet people, I want them to also throw up because they're just so taken aback. That he then writes this song, Aneurysm, and he says, I loved you so much, you make me sick, kind of a thing. And so they have this relationship. So unfortunately, Toby and Kurt break up in 1990. And then Courtney Love, aka Yoko Ono number dos, comes along. And this hoe bag is pursuing him like crazy. And they said Kurt's like this guy where he has no idea that people are like flirting with him or like him, right? He just does not pick up on shit like that. And she was pursuing him like crazy. Okay. And after the breakup with Toby, he was like, I just want to be single for a while. But Courtney really pursued him. And she even had someone like fly her to like a show to meet up with him. And he was like, okay, I guess we're going to start dating. Right. So she was kind of relentless. Fall 1991, Nevermind comes out, Smells Like Teen Spirit, band blows up, right? Huge. This is what we say is basically the start of grunge music, okay? Comes out, this new music genre, and kids are just loving it. I mean, the band was everywhere. Everywhere you looked, you saw Nirvana, right?
Mhm.
So grunge music is now this mainstream thing. And it's very like anti-establishment, misunderstood kids. And I don't think, well, I know Kurt did not like the spotlight on him. He didn't like it at all. He had a real hard time with this. And something that happened that I didn't know before looking into this is that I guess like two of his fans raped a girl while singing one of Nirvana's songs, Polly. Do you guys know the song Polly?
I think so.
So actually what had happened is Kurt had written this song. It's a true story that he heard about. It was this 14-year-old girl, Polly, who had escaped her captor. And it was like a tribute to her strength for getting away, right? But people listening to his music were taking it the wrong way and like using it, to do awful things. And it really bothered him. He really didn't like that. So he was really struggling with stuff like that. I feel like he just wasn't made he didn't want to be in the mainstream. He was an artist. He wanted to make his music, and this type of life he was not meant for. He did not like it. Okay. So if you don't know who Courtney Love is, I don't know how that's possible, but he's dating Courtney Love. And, she's the singer of the band Hole. And unfortunately, with Courtney Love, they really are this crazy, chaotic mess together because they are both heavily into drugs. And they say that Courtney's the one that even introduced him to heroin, which is just crazy that they were doing drugs nonstop together. They said at one point, I guess his habit was like a $400 a day habit. Wow. Which is crazy. That's how much I spend on my positivity, and that bitch isn't killing me. Okay. That
was what, 20, 30, almost 30 years ago. So
do we have a calculator? It's like $1 million a day now.
About $1 million, a gazillion dollars a day. Yeah. I'd say probably about $1,000 a day. Yeah.
So he had the money for it, but that's crazy. So this is a crazy, toxic relationship. People did not like Courtney. His friends did not like Courtney. She was chaos. He said, though, that she was magnetic and he was drawn to her and he couldn't leave her. People said she was an opportunist, that she knew he was going to blow up and she was like kind of holding on to that kind of a thing, right? People did not like her. So Kurt said that he was using the heroin because he had chronic stomach pain. He had a really bad stomach condition for a long time where he was in a lot of pain. And they said that he was using heroin because of the pain, but that sounds like an excuse to me, right? So that's what it sounds like. So he's using drugs constantly with Courtney. Really bad situation. It gets so bad that January 1992, they're about to do Saturday Night Live, right? Which we know is huge for bands. You get to be on Saturday Night Live. This is kind of a moment for them. And they don't even know if they can go on because he's so strung out. They say that on stage, he's trying to sing and he's like lifeless. Right? He's got nothing going on. They get off stage and he almost collapses. He's a mess. He's a drug addict, right? It's a bad situation. And then soon after that Saturday Night Live show, that taping, Courtney finds out that she's pregnant. Okay. I guess they were having sex too with all that drugs. I'm shocked to hear it, like y'all.
Dang, how did they even get pregnant by all those crazy drugs, man? That's
all those crazy drugs. I don't know. So Courtney insists that before they get married, Kurt signs a prenup And she tells everyone that she feels like she's going to be way bigger than Nirvana, that they're going to have so much more money than Nirvana. And so she wants Kurt to sign a prenup, which obviously this shows how crazy and insane she is. So she's nuts. She's nuts. February 24th, 1992, they do get married in Hawaii. Kurt is 25 years old. I don't know if you guys remember the pictures from their wedding, but Kurt is wearing green pajama pants because he just couldn't even. And she's wearing like the nastiest white satin like lingerie thing.
Yeah, like a slip.
It was a slip. And so they both kind of half dressed, and they got married in Hawaii. Such chaos. They're a hot mess. If my man showed up in green pajama pants, I'd be like, "What is this, 2020? Okay, what you doing?"
It wasn't just pants though, right? It was like a full like. It was like
it's so bad.
It was like
picture. It's so bad, man.
What was it? Like a onesie or what?
No, it's like, how people are taking like all the family photos at Christmas time and then they got buffalo check all over through and through. I mean, I did it, so whatever. But it's that with like a green and white plaid.
Yeah.
It's just.
Yep.
Yes.
Hello.
It's crazy.
Love it.
Nice photos, you guys. Good job.
So so happy.
Yeah, his bandmate and friend Chris, the guy that I can't say his last name, you get mad, go to the wedding because Courtney wouldn't let Chris's wife Shelly go because Shelly was like a staunch Courtney sucks balls person. And so Courtney said, that bitch can't come. So there's drama. She's a queen of chaos. Yeah. And so they didn't even get to go. People just did not like Courtney. Madonna at one time, I guess, was really interested in signing Courtney Love's band Hole to her label. But then she like heard Courtney speaking and kind of talking shit about everyone and how big she was going to be. So Madonna actually backed out of that and said, never mind. Just kidding. So Courtney then went to Kurt's label, Geffen Records. And she was like, I'll sign with you, but I want to make sure that the deal I get with you is better than the one Kurt has with you. And made them show her his contract. And she got it. She got $1 million deal, which is much more than they had signed Kurt to. So, she's just a real piece of shit. A peachy bitch. She later tells Vanity Fair that she used heroin after that SNL show. And then people come out and they go, oh, what? You were pregnant. So that's when it came out. She was doing drugs while she was pregnant. I don't know if you guys remember that. So she was trying to say later, oh no, Vanity Fair misquoted me, but no, bitch, you'd be doing heroin while pregnant. So it was a bad scene. Kurt was really, really depressed at this time, doing a lot of heroin. August 1992, Courtney checks into a hospital. I guess a lot of her friends and stuff were really worried about her. The baby was due soon, so they had her check into a hospital to make sure that everything was okay. She needed help. She was a mess. And at the same time, Kurt checks into a detox facility. Courtney has their baby August 18th, 1992, and they name her Frances Bean, and she was super cute. 5 days later, the New York Times posts that Courtney was on methadone when she gave birth to Frances. Methadone is something that people take usually, during pregnancy. Definitely, if you have an addiction, they'll have you do methadone because you can't just go off heroin, right? That's really dangerous. So she was on methadone when she gave birth. After having Frances Bean, child services showed up, of course, and they wanted custody of Frances, and they placed Frances with relatives for about a month. So they knew that they were drug addicts. They stepped in, and I think this really woke Kurt up a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to get Francis back, they had to do urine tests all the time to show that they were, you know, in sobriety.
Mm-hmm.
March 1993. You know, this is a time where Kurt is getting clean. He wants to be a good dad. But then his stomach issue is being too much for him. He can't take the pain from his stomach, and he starts doing heroin again, and he ends up ODing. So it's a bad scene. It's really sad. So Courtney had called Kurt down for dinner. He didn't come down. She found him, and he had OD'd. So she shoots him with, and I know I'm not going to say this right, buprenorphine. Buprenorphine? Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm a professional, so
I don't know. It's like Narcan.
Right. That's exactly what it is, right? So she shoots him up with this stuff that's supposed to get him back going. And then she gave him a mix of Valium, Benadryl, and codeine, which that doesn't seem right, bitch. What the fuck are you doing? So she said that usually brings him to, but that sounds like a real downer in all ways to me, right? Yeah. And he ends up throwing this mix up, and his mom calls 911, of course, to get him help. So this is, it's all bad. It's all bad. And then about 2 months after this incident, he's arrested for domestic assault. So they show up, cops show up. Courtney is saying that she threw juice in his face. And after she threw juice in his face, he pushed her. And then she claims he might have choked her. We don't know if that actually happened. She said that they had been fighting over a gun he bought. This was a Colt AR-15. He said he had gotten this gun because he was worried about stalkers, and they didn't have bodyguards or anything like that. So he says that's why he had the gun. The police officers ended up taking 3 guns out of their house, and she decided not to press charges against him, and that it was just a misunderstanding. So that's the chaos that they're living in all the time. It's really sad. Terrible. It's so fucking sad. It really is.
With a little baby.
With a little baby, right? This little baby Francis did not ask for any of this. So 1994 is actually kind of like a really exciting time for Nirvana and for Kurt, because he's decided to get off drugs. He says that they have figured out what's going on with his stomach. Doctor's giving him something for his stomach now to alleviate that pain. They have this nationwide tour that they're going to go on, huge tour, and then a tour in Europe. And then after this tour in Europe, they're supposed to do Lollapalooza. Do you guys remember Lollapalooza? Right?
Yeah.
That was huge, right? Yep. So this was their year. This was going to be huge, and he was feeling good, right? So with 23 dates left in this tour, European tour, Kurt gets really sick with bronchitis, and it's so bad he can't speak. So they have to cancel the rest of the dates, which sucks. And the doctor says he has to rest for like a few months. Like, don't do anything for a few months. I don't know if you guys have had bronchitis. It fucking sucks. You feel like you're going to die. Mm-hmm. I've had it twice. It's the worst. So March 2nd, 1994, the tour has been canceled. So Kurt goes to Rome, and in Rome, he meets up with Courtney. Courtney has the baby Francis and their nanny. So he meets up with them. They have this really nice family day. And then Courtney and Kurt go back to their suite at the hotel, and Francis is with the nanny in like an adjoining room nearby. Okay. Kurt calls down to the front desk, and he asks for them to fill a prescription in Courtney's name, a drug called Rohypnol. And if you don't know what Rohypnol is, that is roofies. So he's asking for a prescription to be filled of roofies. Okay. And then he also orders up 2 bottles of champagne to the room. Okay. So honestly, y'all, roofies and champagne, that sounds like a nice, fun Sunday by myself. That is a party time. But it's really sad that they're ordering this stuff, and what happens next makes you think, okay, well, maybe something happened here. So he orders this stuff to the room, okay? And Courtney says the next morning she finds that Kurt is unconscious. And she says to everyone, he attempted suicide. He tried to kill himself. And he was saying, no, I didn't try to kill myself. You know, maybe she put extra roofies in his champs. I don't know. But a lot of people talk about this situation, that it was really weird that she was telling everyone who could listen that he tried to kill himself. But he was like, no, I didn't. We were just doing lots of champs and lots of roofies. Okay. So then he goes to Seattle, and he tells Courtney that he doesn't want to do Lollapalooza anymore. Doesn't want to do it. And she is pissed. She loses her shit. This is like a huge, lucrative opportunity for him. And she doesn't understand why all of a sudden he doesn't want to do it. But they're saying that he is really feeling like he just does not want to be part of this whole mainstream music scene. Like, it's just too much for him. He's not into it. Okay. So these tour dates are canceled. People are saying that divorce is coming up for them. He's decided to kind of be like a recluse for a little bit, that he's lost interest in doing the music. It's a bad situation. So now we're at March 18th, 1994, Seattle, Washington, and the police are at the house. Okay. Courtney had called. She said Kurt locked himself in a room with a gun and that he was trying to kill himself. Cops come in, they knock on the door. What's up, bro? And he says, come right in. I'm not suicidal. Why the fuck is she saying that? Okay. And Courtney says, you know what? Just kidding. I lied. He didn't have a gun. He didn't say he was going to kill himself. I was just super pissed because he wouldn't open the door for me. And so in my notes, I put Karen alert. We got a Karen alert. Because she instantly said, I'm calling the cops, right? That's totally what this bitch is doing, right? So they actually end up taking 2 guns from the house at this time, but he wasn't suicidal. She was just being a Karen. March 25th, 1994, Geffen Records has an intervention with Kurt, right? They are saying your drug use is out of control. They feel like he's close to death because it's so out of hand. Courtney in this meeting, this intervention, is saying, I'm not going to let you see Francis unless you go to detox. Okay. So they have an intervention. So Kurt agrees to go to the Exodus Recovery Center in Los Angeles. This is a famous place that a lot of celebrities go. So Friday, March 30th, this is before he enters rehab, Kurt and his bestie, Dylan Carlson, go to a gun shop in Seattle. And Kurt has Dylan buy a gun for him because Kurt doesn't want it in his name. It's in Dylan's name. And he buys a Remington 20 gauge shotgun. Kurt told Dylan he's worried about stalkers, intruders, and they have no bodyguards. Dylan later says in interviews and things like that, that he never would have bought the gun for him if he thought he was suicidal. Okay. So he goes to Los Angeles. He checks into Exodus. I guess he had previously been at Exodus for a very short period of time and hated it. And he hated it again, right? He just was not feeling it. April 1st, 1994. There's an unidentified female visitor that meets him at Exodus, and people don't know who this mystery woman is to this day. It wasn't Courtney. So this female visitor shows up. After she leaves, Kurt goes out for a cigarette break, and then he climbs the 6-foot wall of the rehab center, jumps the wall, books a cab, takes the cab to the airport, and he flies his ass to Seattle. He buys the ticket with his credit card, and that is very important to remember later on. Okay. Courtney, at the time that he was jumping ship and going back to Seattle, she was at the Peninsula Hotel in Los Angeles. Okay. She was like kind of staying nearby the rehab center at the time. So she's in LA. He buys a ticket with his credit card and goes back to Seattle. He leaves a message on her phone at 8:47 p.m. that night, the night he takes that flight. And he leaves a message with the number of some mysterious person named Elizabeth and says, you know, you can contact me on this number. And that's the last time Courtney ever hears from him. Okay. Last time she ever hears his voice is on this voice message. He lands, he gets dropped off at his Lake Washington property. This is on Lake Washington Boulevard. This is Saturday, April 2nd. It's really early in the morning. The house is empty except for their nanny, Michael DeWitt, but everyone calls him Callie. So Callie's at the house, but Callie says that at 6 a.m, he wakes up to Kurt sitting on his bed. That's creepy as shit, Kurt. Jeez. Rude. So Callie wakes up, Kurt's sitting on his bed, 6 a.m, and Callie says that they, you know, chatted for a little bit, and then Kurt said, I'm gonna go. I have some stuff to do in town. Okay. This is all stuff that we have to remember later on. So this is the last time anyone sees Kurt in person, when Callie shares the story of this 6 a.m. chat. But people say that they spot Kurt around town, and actually one of the people that sees him around town is his manager, John Silva, and he says that he is seen with this mystery woman. Okay, we're not quite sure who this mystery woman is, but it's not Courtney. Okay, so Courtney is freaking the fuck out, because that's what Courtney fucking does constantly, because she doesn't hear from Kurt. She has no idea what the fuck is going on with Kurt, right? And so she hires a private investigator to track him down. On April 3rd, she calls Tom Grant. He's a former detective with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, and now he works as a PI. And so she tells him that she already filed a missing persons report, and that she pretended to be Kurt's mom when she did it. Why the fuck would she pretend to be Kurt's mom filing this missing persons report? I have no fucking clue. So she tells Tom Grant to set up surveillance at all these different locations, lots of properties that they own together. And this comes up a little bit, that this mystery woman might be, I guess, Kurt's drug dealer named Caitlin. Okay. There's a rumor, I guess, that there's an affair going on. And again, this is still like unsubstantiated to this day. We're not quite sure what this situation is, but this is what Courtney is telling Tom. Okay. This is his drug dealer. Her name is Caitlin. They're probably hooking up. She's freaking the fuck out. I want you to watch Caitlin's house too. Okay. So Courtney is crazy. His lawyer, Rosemary Carroll, says that their marriage was definitely in trouble. And the private investigator finds out from Rosemary that Kurt had called and said, look, I need you to remove Courtney from my will. Okay. Yeah. Big step. big step. So Courtney then says to the lawyer, Carol, I need you to find the meanest, nastiest divorce lawyer possible because shit is going to go down. Because that's how Courtney rolls, right? She's pissed. She is pissed. So Courtney is removed from the will, but the updated will is never signed.
Ugh.
It's not signed, so it's useless, right? So she's still entitled to everything. But if Kurt lives and they get a divorce, remember that prenup she made him sign?
Oh.
She was not going to get shit. Okay? This dumb bitch. This dumb bitch.
Mm.
So, fun fact, crazy Courtney did not ask the private investigator to check the Lake Washington house. She did not tell him to check that location, right? She didn't mention to the investigator that Callie had called her and told her already that Kurt was home at the Lake Washington home. She knew he was there and did not ask the investigator to watch that house. Why? What the fuck are you up to,
Hiding
Courtney?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? Okay. So she finally tells him, oh, you know what? He is at the Lake Washington location. So Grant makes arrangements with his bestie, Dylan, to check that property out, right? We're going to go look for Kurt at this property. So April 6, 1994, they go to the house. They're looking around. Dylan's, showing him the house, showing Grant the house, and there's no sign of Kurt there, okay? So the next day, Courtney says to them, go back to that house and look for a shotgun. It might be in my closet. Okay? Weird shit's going on. Weird shit. So they return to the house. They don't find Kurt. They don't find a shotgun, but they find a note. This note is found on April 7th. This is crazy. This note is from Callie to Kurt. Okay? So Callie's leaving a note for Kurt. And it's basically just talking shit to him about not calling Courtney and not coming back to the house without telling him. In the note, he's talking shit to Kurt about not telling him he's back, even though Callie told Courtney he's back. Why is he leaving this note pretending like he didn't know he was back? Okay? Weird shit is afoot, my friends. He had already told Courtney he was there. Why is he leaving this note? None of this makes sense. So Callie then puts in the note that Courtney had another accident. She's in the hospital again. This note was found on April 7th. April 7th, Courtney is hospitalized after ODing. Okay? Because she's got her life together. So she's ODing. So Callie flies to Los Angeles immediately to take care of Frances because Courtney's a piece of shit and she's in the hospital. Dylan is showing Grant like a couple different like Seattle places that Kurt, I guess, used to frequent, hoping to find him, and they don't find him. Okay. Courtney is arrested for possession of a controlled substance, having syringes, stolen property. She had a prescription pad on her, and her lawyer said to the judge that a doctor accidentally left the prescription pad. She definitely did not steal it. That she did not have, she was not on drugs, that she actually had an allergic reaction to Xanax. So this lawyer is amazing. That the drugs they found were actually Hindu good luck ashes, not drugs. It's Hindu ashes. So she's released out on bail April 7th, and she then checks into Exodus Rehab, the one that Kurt was just in. Strange things are afoot, my friend. April 8th, 1994, Grant and Dylan were on their way out to a property in Carnation, Washington. And we just talked about the Anderson murders that happened in Carnation. So they had a property out in Carnation. So they're on their way out to check out this property. An electrician shows up to the Lake Washington property. He's working on a building, and he can like see over the garage, and there's a room above the garage, and through the window, he sees a man on the ground, and he thought it was a dummy at first. We all know it's never a dummy. It's a dead body. Okay. He thinks it's a dummy. It's a dead body. He then sees blood. He sees a shotgun. Okay. Bad scene. What does the electrician do? He calls his boss. Then the boss does what? Calls the radio station. Boss calls the motherfucking radio station.
How?
The radio station, even though they think it might be a hoax, calls 911. Police are sent out. Why the fuck is the boss calling a radio station before calling 911? Fucking crazy. Fucking crazy.
Doesn't make sense.
It doesn't even make sense. So Grant and Dylan stop for gas. And while they're stopped for gas, because this is a time of no phony phones, Dylan has to make a collect call, right? He's using one of those old, in the box. You got to go in. Okay. So he goes in the thing. He makes the call. And he comes back to Grant and he says that a body has been found at the Lake Washington house. They get in the car, they turn on the radio confirms a body has been found in the room above the garage. Okay. Dylan never said anything about a room above a garage. And Grant's like, why the fuck didn't you mention this room above the garage? Why didn't we check this out? We are looking for somebody, right? What the fuck, Dylan? And Dylan says, no, it's just like this dirty little room where they just hold lumber and crap like that in there. And Dylan then later tells the police he didn't know about the room. He didn't know the room existed. So Dylan's lying. Dylan's lying to Grant or the police. Why is Dylan lying, right? So much shadiness with this. What's the cover up here? So Grant calls into his office and someone tells him that somebody used Kurt's credit card, spent $43 on flowers just a couple hours before his body is found. They know now that Kurt has been dead for 2 days. So whoever killed Kurt has his credit card, motherfucking using it to buy flowers. Okay. 3 Seattle police officers had shown up to the room. It was locked. They called the fire department. The fire department broke through the window and shattered glass went fucking everywhere in the room. Right. They find a paper on a tray in the room. Kurt is found on his back with a shotgun between his legs. The barrel is pointed towards his head, and his hand is still wrapped around the gun. Okay. Wallet is found on the floor with $120 cash. There's a cigarette box with burned spoons, syringes, and black tar heroin. But the credit card is gone. Okay. There's a brown bag that was found with 22 shotgun shells found in it. There was originally 25. So they found 1 shell on top of some clothing and 2 were still in the barrel. There was a receipt in the pocket of the clothing. I believe it was like a jacket of some kind. And the receipt was made out to Dylan, right? Because he bought
Mhm.
the gun. 3 coroners show up. They take Polaroids of the scene and they quickly rule it a suicide. And this is where I'm going to stop until the next part. But at this point, we don't know what the fuck is up with Dylan. Why is Dylan lying all over the fucking place? What the fuck is up with Callie, the nanny? Lying about seeing Kurt, not seeing Kurt, all this shit. What the fuck is up with Courtney? Not having the PI actually watch the locations. She actually knows he is.
Wow.
And then lying all the time about Kurt and his attempted suicides. Like, is she laying the foundation for something later on? Right? Because we know she ain't going to get shit if they get divorced. So that's where we're going to stop for part 1.
I didn't know that this was going to be a 2-parter.
I didn't either. I thought we were going to get some resolution. All right, I have a question. I'm not good with drugs. Black tar heroin.
I love them. Mm-hmm.
Does that cost $400 a day?
I don't know the prices of the drugs. I don't know prices of the things.
No,
I don't.
You know what
I
I'm
have
saying?
no idea.
Is it not the cheaper version or something? I don't know. I might be way off base here.
You know what? Let's Google black tar heroin. You know what? I'll ask my dealer. He'll know. He'll know.
You
prices.
tell me next time.
I'll find out. These are important things to know. Okay. Kurt Cobain, he's my everything. So doing this dive, hearing stories about him. I have a few different stories I'm going to share with y'all in part 2 that just kind of touched my heart, more about who he was, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who the fuck killed Kurt? Because I do not think it was suicide. We will find out. Actually, we won't. But we'll talk about it. We'll make some guesses. All right, part 1. Yay!
Okay, yay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Are you ready for spookiness?
Oh. So, you guys, I've never been here before. I don't know if you guys have. I'm pretty sure maybe you have, Fred, but we'll see. But this is definitely now going to be on our bucket list of places to go because of the paranormal stuff. So I'm going to talk about the Comedy Store.
Oh, how fun.
I've been there.
You have been there. Okay. So
I wish I performed there, but
I know, right?
It happened. Poor little Red.
Because we're in California, Los Angeles County, we all know what the Comedy Store is, but for our listeners that aren't here in California, the Comedy Store is a really famous landmark comedy club. It's been around forever. It's on Sunset Boulevard, right there on the Sunset Strip in West Hollywood. It has a long, notorious, and frightening history, so I'm just going to get straight into it and tell you all about it. Before it was even the Comedy Store, so we're talking about during the Depression in the 1930s, the actual building was built, and it started out as the Clover Club. Now, the Clover Club was well known.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's so much I found out about this. Like, it's crazy. So the Clover Club was a place where high stake gamblers could go gamble illegally. And it was like one of those like major like underground gambling places. It was like big bucks. Like, you went, and there's a lot of famous guys back in that era that basically were like gambaholics and just basically lost everything.
At the Clover Club. When you said
I didn't even write the names. Yeah, I didn't even write the names of the dudes because I don't even know them, and I'm an old person, so I don't even know who these people are.
I thought of the Irish. I thought, is this a place where Irish people hung out? But no, the gambling thing is legit. I totally would have been there.
Yeah,
no
for
problem.
sure. Right. So then in 1938, the Vice Squad did a raid, and they closed it down. So that was the end of the Clover Club.
Clover Club.
But then it turned into Club Seville. And I guess this was like the hot place to go dancing. And you guys, it had a glass dance floor that was over a pool that had live carp. Now, carp are like big, huge gold.
Yes,
they're or like kind of
no,
like
they're huge.
Yes.
I'll send you a picture.
Yeah.
People go and fish like
Yes.
deep sea fishing for yeah.
So it was like
Massive
a huge
Oh, those are
carp
huge.
aquarium that they had the dance floor on. And I guess it
Ah.
didn't go over really well. Number one, people were afraid that
No.
we're dancing
Yeah.
on this glass, it's gonna break, we're all gonna fall in, right? And then I guess
Yeah.
the ladies were a little bit like freaked out that these like huge ass fish were like looking up their skirts, whatever. That's
Oh,
lame.
come on.
Like the
Yeah.
fish were gonna get fish boners because they
Yeah.
can't get their skirts. Whatever. Okay,
So
ladies.
it didn't go over too well. So basically it didn't even last a year. So
Summer, man.
Yeah. So along comes Billy Wilkerson. And Billy Wilkerson is the man who started the Hollywood Reporter. You know that magazine?
God.
Yes,
Hell
he
yeah.
started it. So, you know, he was like the Hollywood shit, and you know, he had a lot of money.
He was the Hollywood shit.
Yeah. And
That was his title.
so he bought the building. And then he had a business partner on the side that also contributed to buying this property. And that was a Mr. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel.
Oh, shit. I know that name.
We all know as a famous mobster back in the day. And he together they did a $1 million renovation. Now, this is in the late 30s. And they named it Ciro's. Now it's spelled Ciros, Ciro's. And this place was basically the playground to the stars. This club was the shit, okay? He hired this designer dude to come in. They had red ceilings, red silk sofas. The walls were draped in pale green, heavy ribbed silk. It was like this lavish, like totally just, you know, crazy place to go. It was a hotspot nightclub that all the rich and famous went to. So all the celebrities, okay? He built a huge bandstand, and then at all the tables, he installed phone jacks so that all the stars and important people could take care of business and not have to get up from their seats.
Hells yeah. Do you even have a phone at your table? Okay.
I know, right?
Right. Meet me at Ciro's. Okay.
Smart man.
And then, so some of the big names back then in the day, Frank Sinatra, Marilyn Monroe, Dean Martin, and Red's fave, Lucille Ball, just to name a few. They all partied it up at Ciro's.
I want to.
I know. It looked so much fun, you guys. So when Bugsy Siegel wasn't in jail, he frequented the place as well.
He partied too.
Because of him, right. And because of him, Ciro's became the place to handle mob business. And it was a major mobster and mafia hangout, including the notorious guest that was there every week, Mickey Cohen. Now, we all know Mickey Cohen also as a big-time gangster as well. This guy, you didn't want to mess with him. He was a scary dude.
Whatever. I would put him in his place. Okay. If we were in a relationship, he'd be fucking terrified of me. For sure.
So once a week, he'd come into the club. He had an office upstairs, and he would take care of business. So he had a long staircase, basically just a straight up staircase that led up to his office. And you know that if you had to walk up that staircase to go see Mickey, you were in trouble. Like you were
pissing your pants as you're walking up those stairs. You are in big trouble.
Right.
Damn.
Some dudes didn't even make it up the stairs because he had this like little peephole window where he would just like watch them coming up. And if he wanted them whacked, he'd just shoot them right there on the staircase.
No.
And there's still bullet holes on that staircase. Supposedly.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yes.
Yikes.
So basically, there was torture, murder, and a lot of this business was also handled down in the basement. So if you weren't whacked on the stairs, you were taken down to the basement. And they say that there's bodies buried under the concrete in the basement that they killed in.
Damn.
Hid the bodies.
Shit.
Right.
That's so much murdering all over the place.
So much. So much.
I wonder, honestly, they need to like dig this up and find out who's down there.
I know.
Okay, let's go do it. See you there, bitches. I have a shovel. Y'all have shovels? Get a shovel.
I need a jackhammer, actually.
Yeah, I don't have
you
one.
know,
it's just concrete. Yeah.
Yeah. And renovations, like, you know, like rile up like spirits and stuff, but we'll get to that. So there's a room upstairs, and today it's called the belly room. And the belly room was a place back in that day where there was an older lady. She was a nurse. Her name was Ellen, and she performed illegal abortions in the belly room.
Holy shit, that must be so haunted.
So these mobsters
them pussies are haunted.
Yeah, so these mobsters would bring their girlfriends in that, you know, they knocked up, and they would get illegal abortions. Well, one day, one of the mobsters, he had this girlfriend. She was a showgirl in Vegas. Her name was Sharon. He brought her in, and unfortunately, Sharon died from a botched abortion. Well, that didn't go over too well, so they killed Ellen because of it. And that ended, so that ended all the illegal abortions that were happening up there. Yeah, so they're like, oh, so they whacked her, poor Ellen, right?
Talk about a stressful fucking job. Damn.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Fucking Ellen.
So, and then in 1942, at this point, Wilkinson and Bugsy, they were like kind of like over it. They sold it to how do you say it? Restaurateur? Like entrepreneur, but restaurateur, I guess. His name is Herman.
Restaurateur.
Yeah, restaurateur. I don't know. Whatever. Take a drink. So
we're killing it, man. I can't pronounce names. You can't pronounce the restaurateur, people.
Dre's just drinking.
Right. Okay. So Herman Hoover. Herman Hoover. This is the restaurant, dude. He bought it, and he kept it going as Ciro's until 1957. Hold on, I'm going to take my drink here. And then in 1965, it then turned into a rock and roll club, and it was called Ciro's Les Disques.
Lame name.
When it opened, you guys, when it opened, Ike and Tina Turner performed, and they had a guy in their band that kind of like rocked out with them. He wasn't really well known, but his name was Jimi Hendrix.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
damn, Jimmy. Damn.
So this was like a big place, you know, like to go like on the Hollywood Strip and just like to see the rock and roll.
Wow.
Which is like kind of like what Whiskey A Go-Go is now, and like the rock scene, all those places. And then 2 years later, it was renamed the Kaleidoscope. I didn't really do too much research.
These are terrible names.
No,
they
wait,
should have called and asked me. I would have told
it gets
them.
real bad. Listen to this one. Then in 1968, it was called It's Boss.
No, it's not Boss. It's Loser
Boss.
It's Boss. And then in 1969, like less than a year, it was called Patch 2. Whatever.
This hurts my soul.
Right.
Hey,
and then in
I have an idea.
Of 1972, April of 1972, it became the Comedy Store. Okay.
Oh, thank goodness.
Okay.
Thank God.
Sammy Shore and Rudy DeLuca rented a room in the building for a comedy club. And it was Sammy's wife, Mitzi, that named it the Comedy Store. Now, fun fact, Sammy and Mitzi are the parents of my heartthrob back in the early to mid 90s, Pauly Shore. He was my boo. I loved him so much. So so fun fact, Pauly Shore's parents are the ones that bought the Comedy Store.
Hey,
and in 1976, Sammy and Mitzi got divorced, and Mitzi got the Comedy Store in the divorce.
Stop it.
She was able to buy the property, and she expanded, adding 2 new rooms. One that's called the main stage room, and then the belly room, which, fun fact, back in the day when it wasn't being the room where they did illegal abortions, it was kind of like the hidden place where the gangsters could go up, and they had women doing belly dances, which I'm sure were probably like lap dances back then. So that's why they did a play on words.
Other things.
Yeah, so they did a play on words,
belly
and they called it the belly room, which I thought was kind of cool.
Right.
That's cute, mobsters. That's cute. I swear, they're belly dancers. That's
Yeah, they're
all.
belly
we need
dancing.
to
Sure.
we need to like get in contact with Mitzi and ask her to unearth the contents of underneath the concrete. That's what we need to do.
Easy. You guys, this is easy.
Okay.
It's so easy.
Just do it.
Okay.
So in 1981, Mitzi brought in Larry Muntz, and Larry is basically a parapsychologist, and she wanted to do the first like paranormal investigation of the place. So shit must have been going down. There must have been a lot, because come on, you guys, abortions, mobsters, there had to have been some like crazy shit going on, right? And there's a YouTube video of this investigation, and I saw so many mediums, like old school mediums, that were there. There was like these 2 guys. One guy he's a British medium. He recently passed away. I forget what his name was. But then there's this other medium. He had long, like gray hair, and then he's super black mustache. Like his mustache never went gray unless he dyed it, but it was like, and then there's these chicks that I recognized. It was so bananas that I'm like, hey, I know all these mediums.
This is a hot spot. Okay.
And they got a lot of crazy, a lot of crazy stuff that I will tell you guys a little bit down the line here. But one of the really weird things that the mediums did pick up on, in the belly room, they would hear baby crying all the baby cry.
Oh God.
Yeah. Isn't that horrible? Yeah.
Gross. Why
And then they came back out in 1997, and they basically said, okay, there's 5 resident spirits here, and they made the 5 well-known spirits, and they named them. I'm just going to name them, and then we're going to get into it. Francis, aka Gus. Gus was a Ciro's doorman, and he was also a mobster hitman. Anthony, who was also a doorman and also a mobster hitman. Ellen, who was the abortion nurse. Sharon, who was the showgirl that died from the abortion. And then a comedian by the name of Steve Lubitkin, and I'll talk about him later as well. So those are the 5 main spirits that they said are, there at the Comedy Store all the time. So this was well known at this point. Okay. So now let's get into the paranormal shit here. So I saw a YouTube interview with this guy named Jeff Scott. Jeff Scott is a hoot, you guys. And when we go, we got to talk to this guy because he is flamboyant as shit. And I just love him to death. He's the piano player, and he's worked there for many, 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 many years. So like in between sets of the comedians, he kind of like sits there and he plays the piano. And he's worked there for years. He does little odd jobs here and there. But the guy that was interviewing him, he was showing him like all the little trinkets and stuff that he's been saving from like years and years. He's bought stuff on eBay and stuff with like all these like Ciro stuff, and he has a lot of stuff from like the original, like back in the day. He said he knows all the big old time comedians. Like he was really good friends with Richard Pryor. I mean, it's a bananas. This guy's life. This is bananas. So he told a story of back in the 80s when the Comedy Store has that outdoor patio in the front. It's kind of like a concrete like little wall, and then there's all these like signatures of all the comedians that had a plate there. So people would hang out in the front of the patio there. And now this is not really a paranormal story, guys, but this might have brought out some crazy stuff. So he said he was just kind of hanging out in the front, smoking a cigarette, whatever. And then across the street was where the old House of Blues was. Remember that old like rickety building? It was like so, but it was so awesome. So he said he saw this car pull up in front of House of Blues, and this dude on the passenger side gets out, basically walks through traffic on Sunset Boulevard. Cars are screeching, honking, and he's just kind of like nonchalantly like looking at him like, fuck you, I'm walking. What are you doing? He walks through the patio. He kind of looked at this guy, Jeff, and then he walked inside. And then about 5 minutes later, all of a sudden he said he thought it was like fireworks. He was hearing fireworks. But it wasn't. What this guy did was he walked in, shot this guy like point blank in the face, walked back out, got in the car and drove away. And it's a mystery to this day whatever happened. This dude died, and they don't know who did it, whatever.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that point, like a lot of people didn't want to go because they thought it was kind of like a gangbanger like kind of place to go. But I think maybe that kind of was kind of like reminiscent of the mobster days, and that kind of maybe like riled up some of the, the hauntings in the place.
Jeez.
So he also said that a lot of the old school comedians said that they think that it was built over a portal to hell, possibly. And then he also does like a haunted tour. So, because he's been there forever, he kind of does it around Halloween time. So that sounds like fun too. So he wanted to talk about his experiences that he had. So he said that backstage, there are these stairs that go straight up to the sound booth. And he was kind of like this, kind of sitting downstairs, and he kind of like saw somebody walk by his like, peripheral vision, and they walked up to the sound booth. He thought maybe it was the security guard. He didn't really like think anything of it. And then he heard the door slam, which he thought was super weird because number one, he says the door gets caught. They have carpet, so the door gets stuck on carpet. Like when it's like the carpet's too high, and you really have to like push it. And then the door never locked. Like the door handle didn't even like move. So he was like, well, that's weird. So he went and he was like ready to like open it and be like, hey, like scare somebody that was trying maybe to scare him. And as he tried to open it, he couldn't open it. It was like stuck. And then finally, when he was open it, there was nobody there. So he was like, okay, that's weird. So something slammed that door and locked it, where he was not able to open it for a bit, and pushed it, against that carpet. So he was like, yeah, that's not normal. That's fucking freaky. And then another night, he said he was walking to the back, and there was the door to go outside to the side alley, I guess, has like a window, a little tiny window in it. And he said he saw somebody there, like standing in front of the door, but outside. And it looked like they were wearing like a white hoodie or something over like their head. So he opened the door, and the person kind of like stepped back so that he could, get outside. And what he saw, he said, was not a person in a hoodie. He said, like, like when people can blow bubbles and then they blow like cigarette smoke in the bubble. So you can see like a bubble floating, and then there's cigarette smoke kind. He said it was like that exactly, but in the shape of a person. So like if someone blew a bubble in the shape of a person, it was floating like 8 inches off the ground, and smoke inside this bubble outline.
That's a trip.
As he walked a little bit closer,
was he doing acid at the time? Okay,
probably.
This just sounds crazy. Okay,
yeah. So as he walked a little bit closer to it, it popped, and then the smoke, instead of the smoke kind of like dispersing out, it kind of like all like moved to the left and kind of like just floated down the alleyway.
What?
And he was like, what the fuck, right? So he turned around, ran back in, he's like, fuck this. And he ran into his friend Tony, and his friend Tony's like, dude, what's wrong? It looked like you've seen a ghost. He's like, yeah. And so he told him, look, this is what I saw. And Tony turned white, and he's like, dude, I was upstairs earlier today fixing the phones, and I saw the same exact thing. You described it exactly what I saw. So whatever that was.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that? I've never heard of
that.
What is that? Yeah, I've never heard of that. So that's fucking bananas.
That's a trip.
Yeah. And now we're going to get into some of the Gus ghost stories. Okay, so Gus is the mobster hitman. We think that he was whacked as well.
Yeah.
So he did the whacking, and then he ended up getting whacked himself. And
So
they
much
think
whacking
that
off.
maybe he might be one of the bodies that are like buried down in the concrete. So this is still Jeff. He said that there was a magician playing one night, and his assistant, which was this girl kind of like in feathers and like a little outfit, she was in the dressing room, and she came out and she was like pissed. And she's like, who the hell is that guy in the dressing room? He's sitting there in the chair. He's just staring at me. He's a freaking weirdo. Can you tell me who he is? Can you get him out? So they walk in, and she's like, oh, well, he's not here anymore, but he was sitting right there. Where'd he go? I didn't even see him leave. And he's like, what did he look like? And she started to explain what he looked like. Well, that was Gus, because he had like a full kind of suit. So Gus was the one that was sitting in the fucking chair staring at her, and she thought he was a real man.
Creepy, weirdo, stalker ghost.
Yeah.
Ugh, the worst.
Okay. Bobby Lee, do you guys know? I'm going to bring out all the comedians, you guys. So Bobby Lee's hilarious. I think he was on in Living Color.
Great.
Not in Living Color. He was in Mad TV. Yeah, Mad TV. So he's this funny little Korean guy. He's so hilarious. He's not ashamed of his body. He can go naked whenever he wants to go. He's just like doing anything for a joke. He said he's seen Gus twice. The first time he saw him, it was him and another comedian. His name is Johnny Sanchez. And they were going to go do a set down in Bakersfield, or up in Bakersfield. So he parked his car in the parking lot. Johnny drove up. They drove up to Bakersfield. They did their sets. They came back. It was like 3 in the morning. And they were just kind of hanging out in the parking lot. And they looked up and they saw this like a glowing white head, like looking out the window. And there were hands up against the glass, kind of like this, like if the person was like looking out at them, and they could see a top hat, but they couldn't see any features in the face, but it was just like a glowing white like face, and then it disappeared. And they're like, dude, that's Gus. They knew it. They knew that that was Gus. And then Bobby Lee said that on another time, it was like 4 in the morning. He was just kind of like hanging out. He was working that night, whatever. And he was just kind of fooling around playing the piano. And he looked down like the little hallway to where the front entrance was. And he saw this figure walking up towards him in this yellow suit. And it stood out so crazy, because he's like, okay, first of all, it's 4 in the morning. Who's this person? And why are they wearing this yellow suit? They also have kind of like a top hat, and he kind of like just floated towards him. He didn't even walk. And Bobby got up and he fucking ran out the back. He was like, fuck this. And as he turned around to look, the guy was gone, and there was like nobody in there. So Bobby's like, he tells his story everywhere he goes. He's been on a million podcasts. There's a dozen interviews with him. And he always talks about Gus, the famous Gus Ghost at Comedy Store, and how he's seen him. Then he also told the story, and this is a well-known story of back in the day. Sam Kinison, you guys all know Sam Kinison.
Yeah. He screams all the time.
Oh, yes. And he had that trench coat and that long hair. Well, he was one of like the regulars back in the day.
Right.
And there's another comedian, his name is Carl LeBeau. And when they were first starting out, they basically like did their sets, and then Mitzi, I guess, let them spend the night in the club because they had no place to go, and they would just sleep on the stage.
Wow,
like
that's crazy.
Like, just kind of camp out on the stage.
Comedian hobos.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to be a comedian hobo. That's all I want to do.
I know.
Oh, my heart.
So Carl said he woke up in the middle of the night and he looked. No, you guys, this is so weird. Sam Kinison was upside down, floating 4 feet in the air. And then he was just dropped and he fell on his back.
What?
And he tells that they would tell the story all the time. Yeah, they don't know. They think that it was Gus, like kind of like doing what he would do to like people when they were like torturing people, I guess. Yeah.
Was Sam aware that he was being held upside down, or did he like?
I don't know too much more of the story because these guys are both dead. So it's like you don't really know the whole story. But
Wow.
yeah, they just think, okay, it was Gus. Gus was reliving what he did. And, you know, Sam Kinison was a big dude too. So that's
Yes.
really scary. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then
That ghost works out.
Joey Diaz, he's an older dude. He's like kind of like a crude comedian. He was a regular there as well. And he said that he was doing he's working on a Saturday night in the original room. And when he was done, he went off stage and he's kind of just hanging out, and he was watching the other sets after him. And he could tell like there was something behind him that was like kind of blocking one of the lights. So he kind of had to like move back and forth to see, like, he was trying to watch the guys on the stage, but he couldn't because it would go black because the person behind him kept on like, you know, moving around. So he's like, what the fuck? So he turned around to kind of like say, dude, what are you doing? And he said he saw this figure in a cape, and the cape kind of went like this, and then it like floated away. So it was kind of like
Dracula.
That kind of like
Yes.
yeah, that's what I thought, kind of like Dracula. But then I'm thinking maybe it was Sam Kinison, because he always
Yes.
Oh, yes,
coat
yes.
kind of thing, you know.
Mhm.
And then it just floated away into the belly room, which he was like, dude, what the fuck? And then he's really good friends with
What
a
a
comedian
trip.
that's called, her name is Princess Corey. And she said one night she was just so fucking hammered. She did her set, she was drinking. She's like, fuck this. So I'm just going to kind of like take an hour nap in one of the booths. And then when I like a little bit sober, I'll take off. She was awoken. Nobody was there. She was the only one there. She was awoken to ballroom music just blaring. Like it was just like this old timey ballroom music. And she sat up, and the whole place was like back in the day of like ballroom dancing. She said people were there dancing, like old school ballroom dancing. And
The Haunted Mansion.
like that for sure.
Yeah.
And she was like, what the fuck? She got up, she ran out, she set the alarm off. The cops came and everything. They were all back in there.
No.
And there was nothing there. Dude, if she's like, dude, I woke up and there's fucking like ballroom people dance, they're like probably thinking, yeah, girl, what were you
She's like,
drinking?
have you
I
been
know.
to
What did you-
Disneyland? Have you been to the Haunted Mansion?
You
Oh my
guys,
What did
oh
you
my
snort
God.
today?
Yeah. Hell no. That, you guys, is so fucking scary. That would scare
Yeah.
me so much.
Mhm.
Okay, so Jay Moore, you guys know who Jay Moore is, right?
Hell yeah. Hilarious.
So-
I love him.
He tells this story often too. And Ghost Adventures just basically went to Comedy Store. That's why I wanted to do this story. And I guess Jay and Zach are buddies, and he was kind of like telling the story, but he kind of did like the PG story of it. But I actually got the real story from YouTube with him, so I'm going to tell that part of it. So
Okay.
he would go, he would do so many sets up there. Like he was like a regular up there all the time. And whenever he would go on stage, he would immediately feel cold and just like this, like coldness, but it was always like on the right side of his face, like every time, just like freezing cold on his face, freezing cold on his neck. And he always just felt kind of like weird, like he'd kind of get like nauseated a little bit and like a little bit dizzy. And it happened every single time. But the story he tells is when he went out there for the very, very first time, and he went out, he started, 8 minutes into his set, he's like telling his stories, and nobody's laughing. And he kind of like takes a glance at the audience, and he's like, I'm not lying. He's like, I didn't do drugs. Like this was like, I'm not lying. The audience was like frozen in time. Like he said, I was looking at like a painting, like nobody was laughing. There was no sound. All I could hear is myself doing my set. Nobody was laughing. And he's like, pissed me off. So I said, enough of this shit. Get the fuck out of here, ghosts. And as soon as he said that, laughter just exploded in the room, and like hysterical laughing.
What?
Everybody was unfrozen. Everybody was laughing. And he's like, yeah,
I got the
What
chills.
is that about?
I don't know.
Like being stuck between like parallel times? Do you know
Yeah,
what
like
I
you know how
mean?
they say
What
like a
is
glitch?
happening in this spot? Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
What
yeah,
a trip,
yeah,
man.
it's so crazy. Okay, now I'm going to talk about Steve Lubikin. He was a 30-year-old comedian. This is like back in like the late 70s. He worked as a doorman. He was also a comedian. He was just kind of starting to make it big, and then they had like the famous comedian strike. And I don't know if you guys ever heard of this, but
No.
I kind of like was in the band world back in like the 2000s, and I dated a guy that was in a band. And like when you would go like to the Hollywood Strip or to other places, you didn't get paid to play. You basically what they call pay to play. So basically you paid the place so that you could play, just so that you can get out there so people could hear you, and then that's how you get famous, right? So the comedian world was kind of the same way. Even the Comedy Store, they would not pay their comedians. The comedians got their spots, they went upstairs and they worked. Well, they were getting pissed. They're like, we want to get paid. So there was like this huge strike. They had protests out front of the Comedy Store, and Steve was one of the dudes that, you know, was there. And then when the strike was over, basically Mitzi didn't want him performing anymore. Like she was just like, no, like, I'm sorry, you
No shit, dude.
And because of that, also, I guess he had a scheduled slot on the Tonight Show, and that was canceled too. So this guy was like really,
so he was pissed. He was pissed. This was his moment, and it got fucked up.
And he was kind of depressed and like sad. So I'm gonna read something.
Aren't all comedians?
I had to read this. So on June 1st, 1979, Steve Lubikin committed suicide by throwing himself off the top of the 14th story Continental Hyatt house next door to the Comedy Store. He landed on the cement parking ramp between the hotel and the comedy club. His suicide note included, "My name is Steve Lubikin, and I used to work at the Comedy Store." That's it. He hoped that his suicide would resolve the labor dispute. He also cited club owner Mitzi Shore as the reason he no longer had a job.
Wow.
And then reportedly, his girlfriend left a promotional poster of Lubikin in Shore's office, so in Mitzi's office, where she wrote in black marker, "Got the message." And
I got chills. Ugh.
I guess there's an Hollywood story on the Comedy Store, and they talk about his suicide. So he now haunts, of course, he haunts the Comedy Store.
He's angry.
Yeah.
Dang.
So yeah, that's really really sad. So back in '97, when they came back and the research team kind of said, okay, these are the ghosts that are living here. They actually were able to cross over Ellen and Sharon, the nurse and the girl that died from the abortion. They could not cross over Gus or Anthony, the two mobster guys,
like hitmen.
And I don't know about Steve. I couldn't find anything on him. But you mentioned something, Dre, that we should talk to Mitzi, see if we could maybe see. Unfortunately, she died in April of 2018.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think she's dead.
Ever since then, the activities kind of stopped. So they think that maybe they were really like connected to her and they really loved her. There was also somebody said something like she was like maybe in the mafia as well because of like and maybe someone was out to get her. And then I'm not exactly sure, you know, that whole side of the story.
So there's some conspiracy theories dealing with her.
There is
wow, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Then I saw another YouTube video, and this dude went and he said, okay, these are the 5 most haunted areas of the Comedy Store. So these are the places that we're going to want to focus on when we go. So number 5, we're going to count down, is the original stage. So that was like the main room that they first rented before.
Where Jay felt all that.
Activity. Exactly. And also where Sam Kinison was hanging upside down. And then number 4 is the hallways. There's always something going on in the hallways. There's like this little, when you go get on a roller coaster and they have those little gate things that they keep you back and then it kind of like opens. So they kind of have these like little gate things around. I've never been there before, so I don't know, but they move on their own sometimes. And one time someone saw the metal get bent and then come back.
What?
Yeah, that's kind of weird, right?
That's weird.
So the hallways are one of the most haunted places.
Okay.
Also on the main stage, I forgot to tell you guys this, there was a up and coming comedian. He's kind of like a smart ass, he kind of like was like whatever. He was levitated so fast, like he was basically thrown up. He hit the top of the ceiling and he hurt his spine so bad that he had to go in for spinal surgery. I don't know who this guy was. It's hearsay. I don't even know if that really happened, but that's one of the guys that was affected on the stage as well. Mm-hmm. And then number 3, the belly room, of course, because the belly room is where they did the illegal abortions. And when Mitzi first did that place, this is so shitty. That was a place for the female comedians to go perform. So like,
that's nice.
Yeah, the girls weren't even allowed to perform on the big stage. Like that was their stage to go perform. But
stuff like that drives me fucking crazy.
I know, makes me so angry.
But back in those days too, there was like one female comedian to like every 15 male comedians. Like it wasn't a woman's.
Funnier. How about that? How about that?
But there's so many funny girls out there now, y'all. Come on.
Oh hell
They've
yeah!
They've always been there. They just weren't given the chances that men were given. Give me a break.
Right. So Bobby Lee, back to Bobby Lee, he said one night, it was like 3 or 4 in the morning, and he walked up into the belly room and he said he saw a circle of people with these purple hooded cloaks. There was candles and they were doing some type of like seance ceremony. They weren't worshiping the devil. They were kind of doing just kind of like a seance. And he watched them and he said that they were trying to conjure Andy Kaufman.
No shit. That would be a crazy one.
That would be so crazy, right? So he kind of like hung out and waited for people to leave because he wanted to see who these people were. He only got a glimpse of one person and he saw it was Lily Tomlin. Lily Tomlin.
Yes.
Yes. So it was probably like those old school comedians from that time that they wanted to talk to Andy Kaufman. I mean, I think that's so bananas. Yeah. And then the number 2 place. Yeah. The number 2 place is the basement. Of course, that's where all the murder and torture happens. They hear voices, screams, growls, and they also see a huge shadow figure, and they see it all the time down there. And then the number 1 most haunted place is the upstairs office, of course. That's where Mickey Cohen had his office. When Mitzi bought the place, she closed and locked that office up for 30 years. No one was allowed to go up there. Yeah.
No way.
Oh.
And often up in that area.
Used it? Nobody used the office?
Nope, she locked it up. She was like, fuck that. A man in a tuxedo and a top hat is seen up there. You see shadow figures. She used to hire shamans and like witch doctors and whoever she could to like on a monthly base to go up there and cleanse it, and it never worked. So yeah, she was like hard school, like hardcore, like let's get this place. Yeah. So like I said, Mitzi died in April of 2018. Since then, the activity is kind of like cited. It's not like there's nothing much going on, but there is a waitress. Her name was Lori Jacobson. She wrote a book on like all the hauntings. She was a waitress there. She said a lot of times she would set the tables and then like turn around to go set another table, and the table she just set was like unset, like there was nothing on it.
I'd be so pissed.
It would happen over.
I just did that shit, motherfucker.
I know, it just happened over and over and over again. And then another doorman comedian, Joey Gaynor, he said that he walked into the main stage and he saw two candles that were burning on a table. And he's like, dude, who left these fucking candles burning? So he went and he blew them out, and he turned around, he turned back around, and they were lit. And this just kept on happening like 2 or 3 times before they stopped. So they just would light by themselves. And he was like, okay, what the fuck? And then this totally reminds me of one of the really awesome scenes from the Poltergeist. He said that he like turned away for a second and turned back, and there was just a pile of chairs stacked on top of each other in like a weird thing in the middle of the room. No one was there. There was no way that anyone could have done that. But that totally reminds me of the Poltergeist, where she turns around and then she turns back around, and all the chairs were up on the table.
That scene stuck with me forever.
Yes.
It really bothered me.
Yeah.
That gives me the chills.
And to think it happened in actual real life.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No.
And then there was another comedian doorman. His name is Blake Clark. He said that he was not a believer. He was like the biggest skeptic until he saw a bar stool totally move across the original stage. It just kind of like just moved. And then him and Joey were cleaning up one night, and Joey decided to kind of like antagonize the ghosts. And out of nowhere, a friggin' ashtray was thrown at him. He was able to like dodge it, but it, like totally pounded the wall behind them and left a mark. So they know it was like,
Is there any footage, anything at all? Any like, you know, voice recordings?
Oh yeah, there is that, of course. Like I said, the New Year's Day episode of Ghost Adventures, they went and they got a bunch of stuff. You know, Zach and the crew like go over the top, and there's some like weird stuff. But yeah, I mean, you guys can watch that.
Yeah. Okay.
You can watch that and see. And then I'm sure there's a bunch of investigations that people put on YouTube that I didn't watch. And then I'm going to tell one more story. There's another dude that works there. His name is Michael Bedor. And he's the guy that books events. So like if you want to throw a party or whatever, you know, private event, whatever, he's the guy to call. He said that he was on the phone taking a reservation one day, and this guy walked past him like really fast. And he's like, well, wait, because the guy was wearing like a 40s like gangster suit. And he like, as he did like the double take, the guy was gone. So more likely that was probably Gus as well.
Wow.
So yeah, the Comedy Store, y'all. I can't wait to go check it out. I know they said that stuff isn't happening, but
right. I know it's closed right now, of course, with everything.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, so much fun. I think that those stories are so great. I wish that
they are.
We could see footage or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we know
footage? Blows my mind.
Yeah, we have our ghost equipment. Maybe we should take it and see what happens.
I know.
We're not doing anything else.
Sure. Do we know? Okay, after Mitzi died, who owns it now? Who?
Yeah.
It's still in the Shore family. The older brother, not Polly, but the older brother owns it. But it's basically under the Mitzi Shore Trust, I guess.
Oh,
so the trust basically owns it, but the family still runs it. So yeah.
That is so interesting.
I love it. I learned a lot. I found this very interesting and very spooky. Good job. Good job, Timo.
Yeah, I thought it was fun because it kind of did like a little bit of true crime in there too, with all the gangsters and stuff like that. So
yeah, and all the emotions.
Yeah.
So many haunted pussies in that.
It's so crazy, you guys. Like all the shit that went on in that place.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Let me tell you, if I knew there were babies crying and shit, I would never ever step foot in there. I don't know. There's something about that just breaks me the fuck out.
Worst. That's just the worst.
I know, right?
I don't want to hear it.
Hurts my soul.
Yeah. For sure.
Good job, Timo.
Yay!
Good job. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready for the
badass
story?
Woo! Yes.
Give it, girl.
All right.
All
right. I am in love with this guy, Brett Mazarski, guys. Amazing. He is a senior at Haverford College in Pennsylvania. He decided that he was going to open up a website that was going to cater to frontline workers' kids.
Yes.
Oh,
So if you
Yeah.
have a student that is struggling in any subject, math, biology, chemistry, you name it.
Girl, we all do. Okay. We all do.
You can reach out to his website, and I'll find that in a minute. It's for frontline workers whose kids need extra help, because like a frontline worker, we are at work, you know, and we don't have time to help our kids along.
Dre, that's an excuse, and you need to do it all. Okay.
Do it.
Go to the hospital, help, and then come home and do it all. Thank you. Wow.
Do it all.
Come
on.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
So I don't know where I stumbled upon this. Sometimes Red will send me things or just tag me in a post. So I think
I
Red
did send
tagged me in this. Yeah. And I saw it, and okay, you guys are gonna laugh. I didn't think, oh, he's a badass. I mean, yeah, obviously he is, but I thought, holy shit, I really need his help. That's what I thought. That's why I was like, that's why Red tagged me, because she knows I need his help.
No.
That's so funny.
I think it's great.
So, before I even I was like super selfish. I said, let me look this thing up and let me get there. And I sure enough did. And I signed Ricky up for math tutoring.
Yay!
Good job. Yay!
It's amazing. It's like, if you look at their website, it's basically a bunch of kids, right? Students, seniors, juniors in college that are willing to volunteer their time. They've helped 80 students so far.
That's awesome. That's so awesome.
In the first semester, because, you know, we've been doing this for 10 months now, right? So
like
he says,
10
you know,
years.
it feels like it really.
Mm-hmm.
He says frontline workers have made tremendous sacrifices to keep us safe and healthy throughout this pandemic. So I only wanted to give back to these amazing individuals and their families in some way for all that they have done for us. I know.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's just it really touched my heart, because he couldn't have hit the need more appropriately. Like, my kid is a hands-on type of kid. He's smart, but this virtual crap isn't working for him, you know? And I think it's the case for a lot of people. So I wish that this was available to more, you know, not just frontline workers, but to more people.
It makes sense, though, because we know for sure the frontline workers, you're having to be out of the home when so many other jobs, they've been brought into the home. So of course you guys need it. Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I really loved about this was that I sent, you know, you sign up and you get to write a little something, right, about whatever you want. You cannot leave a comment. You can leave a comment. I happen to say, like, this is what I do, and this is who my son is. You know, he's like a football player. These are his thoughts. This is what he's struggling in. And they actually signed him up with somebody who is also an athlete who was doing so they read through those things and they find it. So it was just amazing. And I guess it's really taking off. So more and more kids are signing up, not only for the need, right, but also for volunteering. So a lot more students.
So then they can help more.
Right. So it's not just at Haverford College anymore. They've expanded it to other colleges, and I'm sure they're getting, like, you know, volunteer credit and stuff, like community service credit for this. It's such an amazing thing. This kid, Mazarski, he's studying chemistry, and he says that he wants to use chemistry to help others in need. He's actually wanting to work for the National Cancer Institute for a fellowship after he graduates, and he wants to pursue an MD PhD degree.
Wow.
So, hell yes, yes, yes. He wants to use his love for chemistry to research for, you know, people who are sick and who are in need. So he wants to care for people even more. I can't believe this came from a kid. I just can't. Like, kids are selfish. I mean, we were.
I was not. I was perfect. This is such a badass story. Thinking outside the box, meeting a need, and then executing it. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So more to come. More to come. I'll let you know.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'll let you know how Ricky's grades improve after having a tutor that's catered to his likes. I mean, this guy plays video games and he plays football. Hello.
I love it. New best friend. I dig it, man.
Yeah.
Good job, Dre. I love this badass. Love it. Hit us up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can hear us on YouTube, TikTok, I'm going to forget a bunch. Check out our Patreon page. If you want to be a badass, support your favorite gals. There's different tiers and you get different swag when you help us out. We are always able to connect with you through email. What is that? handcuffsandsage@gmail.com. It's been a while since we've gone through this. We have a website, handcuffsandsagepodcast.com. We love hearing from all of you. Thank you so much for leaving reviews and sharing with us. It always means a lot. I know we took a break because of the holidays, but it feels so good to be back. And we're going to make 2021 a really, really great year. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It has to, because 2020, that was a tough one, y'all. I don't know if you noticed. It was a toughie. So let's make the next year fabulous.
Yeah, hopefully once COVID gets its ass kicked, we'll start doing our little events again. And yeah.
We have to do some things. I'm dying. Oh my God.
I know.
Ridiculous.
That's why this cold has kicked my butt, because I'm doing all this stuff to not get COVID, but somehow I got a cold, and it's because my immunity is so not active. It's it sucks, man.
It does. This is such a bummer, but 20 years from now, I'm sure we'll laugh about it. It's going to be a real good laugh. Okay. See you then in 20 years. Here's your chance to be a big, big winner. We need you to check us out on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Put your favorite serial killer of all time. We're going to see your name and put it in a drawing, and you are going to win some Handcuffs and Sage swag. See you on YouTube. Good job, you guys.
Yay.
All right. Are you ready?
Yep.
And remember, we
do what we want. Yeah.
All day, every day. Woo, woo. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Handcuffs and Sage is hosted by Red, Timo, and Trey in a shitty guest room in Los Angeles.
Theme music is Leave Now by We Are Wasted. Cover art done by Megan Winchester.
Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Show us some love on iTunes. Be a badass and do what you want. Until next time.